So the BBC lied about China and showed China in a completely incorrect way. It's something that we ourselves found out about when we were actually filming a documentary. And I got to set the scene a little bit here before we explain where we are. You see, one of the cameramen / producers that did Conquering Northern China with us, he's a big fan of documentary making, of course. I mean, that's what inspired him. So he watched this thing that was called Wild China that was made by the BBC. And he was very inspired by this one scene in the documentary where the documentary crew went to go and film these villagers in this interesting place in northern China where they kind of wake up in the morning, go down to the beach and dig out these cockles in the sand.
Like
right?
little clams.
Yeah, and razor clams and stuff. So because of this, he spoke to us about it and he was like, look, I really want us to go to this area.
Very picturesque.
Because we did some research and we found out there's some interesting things about the area, like they use seaweed on the roofs of their houses and things like that. So we thought, yeah, okay, we'll go there. But he also wanted to see if he could film this whole morning ritual of getting the cockles out of the sand. I remember him telling us, like, let's see if we can do that, but that's not the main goal. Let's just go there. It looked really cool. So maybe you can tell us about this actual area that we went to, because you can see behind us up there is a sign and it says, well, let me get us out of there quickly so you can actually see, get us to the bottom. Welcome to Rongcheng. So what's Rongcheng?
Rongcheng is a city. It's a coastal city in Shandong province, and that's in northern China, northeastern China. So you imagine, I don't know, maybe like a Baltimore type area. It's on the coast. It's built up. It's nice. It's a fairly nice place, right?
Yeah, no, it's nice there.
And the reason that we wanted to go there was because it's kind of difficult in a lot of places in China to get any place that's worth filming. And I'm not talking about from a cultural perspective. I'm talking about from like, you don't want to see a bunch of factories and industry, right?
Sure.
Because that's what a huge part of China is, especially in eastern China.
Oh, yeah.
It's factory after factory, industry after industry, like a zipper factory here, a button factory there, right? And it tends to get kind of gray and gloomy and, you know, that kind of not a good vibe. But when you go to Shandong, you get the blue skies.
Yeah, it's coastline there, the sea.
You get the coastline, you get the sea. And especially when you get inklings of a village that still uses traditional building methods, largely forgotten in China, the majority of places you'll go are these very sterile
concrete
blocks, right? So Rongcheng's famous for like being on the sea, right? You got seafood, you got seaweed. And in fact, they made this mandate, right, this government mandate to say that they would stop digging up all this seaweed because it was damaging the ocean, right?
Yeah. What you see now over there is a huge amount of seaweed being carted down the road. Now, we were kind of curious because as we rode into Rongcheng on the way to this village, we kept seeing these things on the road. And we were like, what on earth is going on there? Because you can take a look here. It's like this tiny little tractor with people just chilling on there, taking these huge piles of seaweed to God knows where. I don't know what they're doing with it exactly, but they're obviously using it for something. All right. But it was kind of fascinating. We later actually found out, as you'll see in our footage, that they harvest seaweed from the area and a lot of it. It's almost relentless. You can see here the trucks being loaded up with seaweed. And like you said, we were told by the local village guy that they're not supposed to do this, that there's a limit on the seaweed. And the reason they can't do this is because, especially the kind of weird seaweed grass they use for their houses on the roofs, they can't maintain these houses and build more because they're not allowed to take the seaweed out of the sea, which we found kind of strange considering we just saw people taking seaweed out of the sea. Like there's a boat, so they go collect it. However,
to be fair, there's a difference between the sea grass and the seaweed, but what we were told is that they weren't supposed to be doing this. And as they would say that, we would watch them dredging it out of the ocean and carting it away. Yeah. It was quite literally happening in front of our eyes, right?
Sure.
Now, what I really want to point out here is that this whole area, Rongcheng and Shandong in general, has always been this darling child of the Chinese government. They use it for all their like testing policy like type thing. The villages you see there are very different than the grimy villages you'll see like in central China or even in Guangdong where we lived. They're very pristine. They're very built up. They'll have signs all over saying they won some award for the CCP's award for best, most hospitable village or whatever, right? And this is no exception. In fact, this was really a darling child village. So they set us up here in this place, and it was very much curated. It's like Potemkin in a way. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, you can tell that originally that this place was a village, and they said, this is an interesting, let's use this as an example. And they went there and they redid the whole thing, because you can tell that the buildings have been rebuilt up, and, obviously it was in ruin and they just rebuilt it. So it, and unfortunately, actually lost all of its real authentic feel. You can see here, like they've repaved the streets, they've redone all the houses, just to kind of make it look like a good idea of what it would be. I can think about it this way. You could take an Indian, a Native American reservation and just build new teepees and, like whatever the traditional, all that kind of stuff. And say, look, this is a traditional, Indian village or whatever, but it's not really real. It's just been built.
Yeah, like the people there have nothing to do with it necessarily.
Sure.
So the interesting thing about Rongcheng, this place, is actually where they first implemented and rolled out the social credit system.
Yeah.
So like I said, central government uses this area / Shandong in general, this province, to roll out these kind of initiatives. And we kind of noticed that whole vibe throughout the entire province, but especially here in Rongcheng. So we stayed in this model village, and to be honest, I'm not going to be totally negative about it. They did a pretty good job of bringing it back.
It's quite pleasant.
The people were friendly.
Yeah.
A couple of TV shows were being filmed there. You could tell it was definitely serving its purpose.
Yeah,
right?
there's another weird thing. There's migratory swans apparently that come to this area, so it's very well known for this particular little village. People go there to take photos of swans because it's random. There's
huge
big pictures of swans on the side of advertising.
Yeah, you'll see huge groups of Chinese tourists with their massive cameras and their lenses.
Yeah, come for the swans.
They're laying there ready to. Basically, it looks like they're going to war.
It's really
they're
interesting.
About to shoot some swans.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it was nice on the coast, and we went there.
You can actually see on the wall of that one building over there. You can see the swans. See them up there? Because it's all about come and take photos of these swans, which is bizarre, because we know that there are no birds in China, but apparently occasionally they do fly in from somewhere else.
Yeah, probably from Russia or something.
They're migratory swans. You can't just go take photos all the time.
No.
Yeah. So.
No. Anyway, perhaps more famous though is seafood here, just because you're on the coast, right? And in fact, there's huge oyster farms there, which we went out to go see. But leading up to that, we were learning more and more about the seafood industry in this whole area, and that's kind of what our producer wanted us to go check out, right? And that was unfortunately one of the main issues, is that when we went to go to the coast to see how they were doing this, they're throwing out buoys. They're getting these old ladies to put on the semen into the shell so they can reproduce.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see that, we've got...
It's cool.
I'll just bring up in the background here, because this is just us riding through the village, having a chill time, checking everything out, it was really nice. Like we said, it was actually fairly pleasant, but... definitely not natural, but pleasant nonetheless.
I mean, bringing something back from the ruins is impressive, because there wasn't anything here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in Mao's, Chairman Mao's China, a lot of this, stuff was completely destroyed.
Well, I mean, and it was just abandoned.
It was abandoned
because there's no. First of all, you couldn't own property and all the other nonsense that came along with the communists. But there was just absolutely no reason to stay in these villages and to keep them going, because, well, you had to urbanize, or you had to go work on the farm plantations, or whatever you had to do. So a lot of the good stuff was lost. So at least they're trying to bring some of it back.
Imagine a world where the internet was unsecure. What would you have to put up with?
Bottles and bones, old rusty tins, old shopping bags, plastic lids. Bottles and bones, old rusty tins, an old yellow sock, a half-eaten sandwich, old shopping bags, plastic lids. Bottles and bones, an old rusty tin, 3 fish heads, a bicycle wheel, an old yellow sock, a half-eaten sandwich, old shopping bags, plastic lids. Bottles and bones, an old rusty tin.
We use a VPN every single day because of the nature of the work that we do. We have to be super careful that nobody is peeking in on what we're doing online. We have to make sure that our data is safe. But it's not just people like us, because anybody out there can be a victim to unsecure internet. Whether it's people trying to hack your credit cards and personal info, or unsavory people or websites trying to put something on your computer to track what you're doing. A VPN can help you hop around the world to different servers and make sure that you're completely untraceable. The VPN that we choose is NordVPN. We love how easy NordVPN is to use, and we've been using it for a long time now. We put our name behind it so you guys can trust it too. Go to nordvpn.com/ADVChina. You're going to get a huge discount off of a 2-year plan, and it's completely risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, you'll be supporting the channel. Thanks.
But yeah, there you can see the sea down there. And, you know, it looks kind of nice. We went out on the boats to go and look at everything. And this is where things started to change a little bit, okay? Because the guy that we got in touch with, the local fixer, who's the village head, his name's Mr. Xu, okay? Very interesting character. That's all I can say. Like a really nice guy. Nice guy. Really interesting character. Yeah, he would just say every single time we asked him for something, he'd be like, "Kuya." So, like, for instance...
Which means okay.
Yeah, we sat down and we wanted to have a beer. He's like, "Kuya," and he bought us the warmest beers that he could find. You know what I'm saying?
Hot.
Yeah, really, like...
In the sun.
And we were like, "Is it possible to make these cold?" He's like, "Kuya." So he left some in the freezer overnight and they were frozen that we couldn't drink it. But you can actually see him behind us here on the boat. I got a proper shot of him. And he's important because he's one of the guys who was filmed in the BBC documentary. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting back to the real meat of this because, yeah, he is the village head. Okay, so he's the guy in charge of everything. He makes the baozi and stuff. If you watch Conquering Northern China, you'll see he's a really interesting character. You can see how he goes and brings baozi, which are, you know, steamed buns, in the morning to the women that are preparing the oysters. Because there are massive, massive oyster farms. You can see them all in the background, all those buoys on the water. That's oysters. And they're farming oysters and various other things out here. But yeah, the important part is that when we sat down, let me fast forward a bit so you can actually see him. There he is. So there's Mr. Xu up there. Now, the interesting and important part was when we sat down, our producer asked him about the cockles. Can we film you guys in the morning? Because, you know, the BBC made it out as if this is a morning ritual.
It's like, look at the beautiful local culture where everyone rises at the crack of dawn to get the cockles from the sand on low tide.
Yeah, so our producer asked, can we film you guys doing that tomorrow? Because, you know, apparently you guys do it every day. He's like, no, we don't do that ever.
We've never done that.
He was like,
we
were like, what? And he was like, no, when the BBC came here, they asked us to put them in the sand so that we could film taking them out of the sand.
And he legitimately said, but if you really need to, I can arrange that.
Here's the original footage. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to go back a little bit so you can see. There's Mr. Xu. He's the guy in the front there. You can see him. He's a little younger there, but that's definitely him over there, that guy with the hat. So this is the scene from the BBC. You see, they walk out of their village. They made it look all rural and rustic and stuff. So here they walk out. They go to the beach. It kind of looks nice and picturesque. See how they're all like digging up in the morning, and they're digging up these cockles and razor clams. He said that they paid everybody here a day wage to come and do this.
I can't remember, was it like 10 RMB or something?
I mean, it was a long time ago. I see it pulling out razor clams.
$10 maybe.
And he said that they went and they actually, you know, the night before, they dug it up and put all those cockles and clams and stuff into the sand so that they could dig it up for the cameras.
And the funny thing is that this wasn't like weird to him.
No.
He was like, oh, are you like, it was basically the way he framed it was like, oh, you want to be like the BBC and we'll just pay people to put him in there for you?
He actually said like they can do it for us if we really want to, but that's not something they do.
We were like, what? What? The BBC did what? So we did some research.
Yeah.
And I want to get into this a little bit.
Sure.
I think it's quite important to understand that in China, we would always have to go out of our way to go find something picturesque or pick something that we wanted to celebrate China for.
Sure.
Right? We wanted to make China look good. And the BBC had to do the exact same thing, albeit we never, ever fabricated anything.
No.
But when we looked into it, the reason this actually happened was, I'm not going to fully blame the BBC at all for this, because what happened is the first time the BBC had partnered with a foreign government.
Oh, well, the first time China had partnered with...
That's what I meant to say. The first time China had partnered with a foreign company, foreign media company, to put together a documentary. So what happened was there was a lot of self-interest from China's perspective, propaganda, all this kind of stuff to make sure.
The people that were doing the documentary also really wanted to put China in a positive light. Now, there's a reason for this.
Yes.
It came out just before the Beijing Olympics in 2008. So this was a big promotional thing for China. So the Chinese government was full on behind this. And of course, the BBC was full on behind this to show China in the most positive light possible.
It was a collaborative propaganda effort.
Yeah.
Was what we found out.
And, I've watched Wild China, and I think it's a beautiful documentary, and it shows some fantastic things that have never been seen or filmed in China before. But unfortunately, quite a lot of it had to be sort of fabricated and set up. Like, for instance, they had to have alligators hatch, and they couldn't find anything in the wild. They had to go and get them from incubators and then put them in like a... they've even admitted that. That's on their Wikipedia and stuff. But they actually had to put them in this like wild nest and, they're hatching. But that's because they couldn't find anything natural. They had to make sets to show the rats or whatever else. But again, the whole cockle thing was fabricated, and set up to show that it's natural. And look how the people do this. It's not true.
It's not true.
They factory farm everything out there.
We were always... And again, I'd like to say this, although we went out of our way to present China in a positive light, we've never, ever made something up. We've never told people to say anything they don't want to say. And that's what I think gave our stuff a lot of credibility. And that's actually why China didn't like us in the end, the Chinese government.
Sure.
Is because when you show 90% good stuff and like 10% like, not bad, not good stuff, right?
Sure.
They don't even want that 10%.
No, they don't.
It has to be perfect. And even the good stuff that we show, the stuff that really resonates with our audience or the people like you watching, stuff that resonates with you is China's embarrassed of. So when we show like a beautiful conversation we have with someone in some place in China, they're like, no, they don't want to show that. They'd rather show their government curated image that actually doesn't resonate with people because they're so out of touch. And that's what one-party state does. That's the downfalls of one-party state. And you can see through the BBC like how they had to manufacture this that's kind of how China operates anyway.
Yeah.
When you see any documentary, BBC or not, out of China, the vast majority of them are completely doctored.
Correct. Yeah, it's unfortunate because, that Mr. Shu guy was just being totally honest with us.
He was very upfront.
And it was the whole thing of our producer wanting to see if he could film that and kind of recreate that BBC shot, I guess, in his own way. And then we were just shocked when he was like, no, like we just put those in the sand. You know what I mean? So here's the BBC portraying China in a false positive light, which, is something I guess the BBC has done quite a lot for China, to be honest. Yeah. And it just shows you, this is what happens when things are so opaque. There are no other fact checkers. Think about it. The BBC filmed that. Who else?
No one?
No one, except us.
So no one's going to go there and ask, hey, what's the validity of this cockle scene?
And everybody who watched the BBC documentary thinks that China's got this beautiful natural coastline where people just go and dig in the sand and pull out cockles. And you know what? Who's to say that that's not the case?
Right.
And we only found out about that because we went to that exact same spot.
By accident.
Yeah. It's opaque, but I mean, I tell you one thing. If you go to the West Coast or the East Coast of America and you film something about, like, I don't know, some wildlife thing there'll be other people that can go there and film that too. And they'll be able to say that that's either bullshit or not. But in China, it's so difficult because it's such an opaque situation. And to go there and film. And this kind of shows how it works across the board, when it comes to the whole issue with the Xinjiang and the genocide over there. Any human rights atrocities. Only one little, approved group will be able to film something that's usually doctored or fabricated anyway, And then you can't get that backed up or fact-checked by
you can
people.
tie this to everything. It can be Xinjiang. It can be the Uyghur genocide allegations. It can be the lab leak
the
theory.
Wuhan lab, yeah.
All of these things, and it doesn't have to be that big, too. No. Anytime you see anything come out of China media-wise nowadays has to have the government stamp of approval, which means the government curated everything.
Yeah.
So you have to take that with a grain of salt. If anyone's living in China right now and actually putting media out, then it is stamped and approved by the government. Yeah. And probably, actually most likely, was completely orchestrated by the government.
Yeah.
And we know that 100 to be 100% true.
Every time you see people visiting an ethnic minority and they're happy people dancing around, that's all been set up.
That was all premeditated.
It's been set up. It's not normal. It's not natural.
We've spoke to journalists as well that got kicked out of China because China's been kicking out journalists, right?
Yeah.
Every time they went anywhere just to get anything organic, not even a smear story or something.
Yeah.
It was all set up. They would orchestrate car crashes. They would orchestrate people that they just happen to run into at a gas station. Mm-hmm. Everything is premeditated, and it's kind of like you can imagine North Korea, but with money.
Sure.
Right? It's all premeditated. Potemkin, like we said.
Yeah. Anyway, like this, to be honest, if you want to see more about this, if you want to see an honest take on all of this, you can watch Conquering Northern China, our documentary. There's a link in the description below on Vimeo for you to go and take a look. And you can get honestly, a real perspective, a non-biased, because we didn't get permission from the government to do any of this stuff. We just went out and filmed. A couple of foreigners living in China, adventuring around China. Our producers were also British, and we just went. And we thought, let's see if we can get away with it. And we just organized things as if we were, because that's how China works. You just go there and you do it, People don't ask, did you get filming permission or anything? You just do it. So we did it. So it's probably the only unbiased, like, true look at what life is like for a lot of people around there. So
Agreed.
Yeah, check it out. Anyway, I suppose unlike the BBC fabricating lies about China being more natural than it is, stay awesome.